good morning, evening, or night. Wherever you are, welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Thursday, 14th August 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. Ukraine finds itself at the center of intense diplomatic efforts as U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin prepare to meet in Anchorage, Alaska, to discuss potential peace initiatives and arms control agreements. Trump is optimistic about the summit, believing Putin is ready to negotiate an end to the conflict, possibly including a nuclear arms deal. He has even proposed a follow-up meeting with Putin and Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky at one of three proposed locations. However, the Kremlin has tempered expectations, cautioning against anticipating significant breakthroughs. Prior to the summit, a call from Trump initiated a week of diplomatic activity involving Zelensky and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, particularly after a territorial swap proposal gained traction. Putin has praised Trump's efforts to end the conflict as energetic and sincere. The summit's exclusion of European leaders has raised concerns about potentially unfavorable terms in any agreement. Meanwhile, Zelensky and Keir Starmer met in London, reaffirming a shared commitment to achieving a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. These discussions occur against the backdrop of Russia's forcible seizure of large areas in eastern and southern Ukraine, raising questions about the future status of these territories. Public opinion in Moscow reflects a desire for peace, although disagreements persist on how to achieve it. Turning to the United States, President Donald Trump has taken unprecedented personal involvement in the selection process for this year's Kennedy Center honors. His belief that Vladimir Putin is ready to negotiate a deal on Ukraine, potentially including a nuclear arms agreement, has driven his diplomatic efforts, including proposing 3 locations for a follow-up meeting involving Putin and Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky. In the United Kingdom, Volodymyr Zelensky and Keir Starmer met in London to review a previous meeting, agreeing there was a powerful sense of unity and a strong resolve to achieve a just and lasting peace in Ukraine, according to Downing Street. China's economic engine showed signs of sputtering in July, with weak domestic consumption and trade tensions cited as culprits. In response to these economic pressures, China is restructuring its universities to better align higher education with economic needs, leading to degree program cuts. Smaller counties are bucking the trend, emerging as consumer hotspots thanks to e-commerce and a growing middle class. China is also launching a Young Talent K visa for science and tech specialists and rapidly expanding its 5G infrastructure to boost technological innovation. Its first domestically developed e-beam lithography tool is slated for commercial use, advancing chip-making capabilities. And the Sudan is transitioning away from Western-made industrial control chips. China is securing soybean supplies from Brazil for September and October amid trade tensions with the United States. China's aircraft carrier capabilities signal a narrowing naval gap with the U.S., and a high-speed VTOL jet drone has been unveiled. Researchers have also developed a new genomic tool, Uni-C, for early pancreatic cancer detection. The former chairman of China Tower Corp.HC Limited has been out of contact for over 2 months. Turning to international relations, Foreign Minister Wang Yi hosted Thai and Cambodian counterparts, advocating for peaceful resolution of their border dispute. Chinese Ambassador Xiao Qian said China and Australia are ready for more productive economic cooperation. In the United States, President Trump expressed unconcern about Latin America's growing ties with China, citing the U.S. economy's strength. Trump also stated he hopes to save Hong Kong Democrat Jimmy Lai and would raise Lai's case in trade negotiations with China. Bridgewater Associates divested its U.S.-listed Chinese stocks, valued at $1.41 billion in the second quarter, shifting to Hong Kong. Road King Infrastructure defaulted on debt payments, marking the first such instance for a Hong Kong developer since China's property crisis began in 2021. In trade and legal matters, a U.S. EEC preliminary ruling found China's Bow Technology Group misappropriated trade secrets from Samsung Display. Shares of Guangzhou Inogen Pharmaceutical Group surged on their Hong Kong debut. Weather-wise, Tropical Storm Podol made landfall in southeastern China, after leaving one missing on Taiwan, bringing heavy rains. Israel's settlement expansion plans in the West Bank continue to generate controversy and condemnations, particularly concerning projects near East Jerusalem and the A1 area, which are viewed as detrimental to a two-state solution. The UN reports record levels of Palestinian displacement in the West Bank, compounded by settler violence and destruction. Despite claims of increased aid access to Gaza, humanitarian groups report insufficient supplies and logistical bottlenecks, accusing Israel of weaponizing aid through restrictive registration rules. The EU, Britain and Japan are urging immediate action to avert famine. Australia is moving towards recognizing a Palestinian state, a move viewed by some as symbolic, while Israeli Minister Sharon Haskell dismissed anti-Israel protesters as useful idiots. Human Rights Watch alleges that Israeli airstrikes on Tehran's Evin prison in June resulted in deaths and potential war crimes, also accusing Iranian authorities of abusing survivors. Internal dissent is growing within Israel, with former Air Force reservists protesting the war in Gaza. Despite the ongoing conflict, students in Gaza are pursuing music education. The Toronto International Film Festival will screen a documentary about the October 7 attack after initially rejecting it. Donald Trump intends to meet with Vladimir Putin in Alaska, aiming to broker a ceasefire in Ukraine that would involve Volodymyr Zelensky. Turning to Germany, Chancellor Friedrich Merz's diplomatic endeavors regarding Ukraine have garnered commendation. The Solomon Islands saw its prime minister's proposal, excluding countries like the US, China, and Taiwan from invitation, approved at the Pacific Islands Foreign Ministers meeting in Fiji. In the United States, President Donald Trump vowed to defend Social Security on its 90th anniversary. The U.S. government is reportedly exploring acquiring a stake in Intel. The U.S. and the Philippines are engaged in discussions regarding deploying additional missile launchers to the Philippines to strengthen defenses in the South China Sea. The U.S. State Department has approved a potential $346 million weapons sale to Nigeria to bolster security capabilities. A lawsuit in Louisiana alleges that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, unlawfully deported 2 mothers and their 4 children, including one with cancer, to Honduras in April 25, violating policies and federal laws. The lawsuit claims ICE secretly detained the families, denied them access to counsel, and disregarded legal filing. Meanwhile, the U.S. Congress delegate from the Northern Mariana Islands has urged President Donald Trump to declassify federal documents pertaining to Amelia Earhart's disappearance. Sonny Lasquith, a Filipino green card holder, was detained by U.S. Customs and Border Protection at Charlotte Douglas International Airport in North Carolina after returning from a vacation in the Bahamas and is facing potential deportation due to a past drug charge for which he already served his sentence. California Governor Gavin Newsom announced plans to request voters to approve new congressional maps following a redistricting plan by Texas. A U.S. federal court in Texas is dismissing a lawsuit against a state law signed by Texas Governor Greg Abbott that restricts property ownership and leasing by companies, individuals, and government entities linked to countries designated as adversaries. The U.S. State Department has added the Balochistan Liberation Army, BLA, and its alias, the Mujahid Brigade, to its list of foreign terrorist organizations. Shifting to the Philippines, discussions with the United States are underway concerning the potential deployment of additional missile launchers to enhance deterrence against aggression in the South China Sea and other security hotspots. In South Korea, the Supreme Court dismissed a $30 million damage claim filed by an American composer accusing a South Korean company of plagiarizing his version of Baby Shark. The U.S. State Department has approved a possible $346 million weapons sale to Nigeria to improve security. Focusing on China, Xiaomi regained the top position in Southeast Asia's smartphone market during the second quarter, shipping 4.7 million units. According to Canalys, driven by strong sales of its budget and premium handset. In the United Kingdom, David Lammy referred himself to the environment watchdog after fishing with J.D. Vans without a license. Tragically, in Italy, at least 20 people died after a boat capsized off Lampedusa. Finally, doctors are expressing concern about a rise in cancers and skin damage linked to bleaching creams, fueled by colorism. Japan marked the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, honoring over 3 million war dead without a government apology for wartime actions. Genshi Tsuzen, a former kamikaze pilot trainee and Grand Master of the Japanese tea ceremony, passed away at 102. The Tokyo Stock Exchange is now examining growth companies to boost valuations and capital efficiency. Criminals are using hijacked online brokerage accounts to manipulate global penny stocks. A Japanese woman and an American man, whose grandfathers were on opposing sides during the U.S. atomic bombings, have formed a collaborative bond. In a major law enforcement operation, authorities seized 1 metric ton of dried cannabis valued at $5.2 billion, 35.20 million, smuggled from Vietnam. Approximately 30,000 visitors to Japan's World Exposition in Osaka were stranded due to a power outage that shut down the Seoul train service, leaving some to stay overnight. Russia's President Vladimir Putin is set to meet with Donald Trump in Alaska for a summit. The meeting's focus will be on a ceasefire in the Russia-Ukraine war, including potential land swaps. Putin praised Trump's efforts to end the conflict, which could ease Putin's international isolation. Putin intends to broaden the discussion beyond Ukraine, including arms control and trade, with the U.S. WhatsApp reported that Russia is attempting to block its services, citing concerns over secure communication rights. In other news, a Russian delegation, led by Culture Vice Minister Andrei Malyshev, went to North Korea. This visit signals a commitment to stronger relations between the two countries. The U.S. government is auctioning the Amadea, a luxury yacht valued at over $300 million, seized from a sanctioned Russian oligarch in 2022. South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung seeks to revive a 2018 military pact with North Korea. His goal is to lower border tensions. He also encourages Pyongyang to talk and rebuild trust. Lee, who once called Japan an enemy country in 2016, now sees Japan as vital. He plans to meet Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba in Tokyo on August 23rd. This meeting aims to show stability to Washington during global uncertainty. In other news, the Supreme Court rejected a U.S. composer's claim that Baby Shark was plagiarized. This ends a 6-year legal battle and supports Pinkfong, the song's creator. Heavy rain in the capital area caused 1 death, but the weather has improved. India is grappling with political controversies and devastating natural disasters. Rahul Gandhi, a leader within the Congress Party, alleges that the Election Commission is biased towards the ruling BJP, and Narendra Modi, claiming vote theft during the 2024 elections. Simultaneously, the nation mourns the loss of at least 56 lives in a flash flood in Indian-administered Kashmir, devastating a Himalayan village. Adding to the tragedy, a cloudburst in India-controlled Kashmir caused severe flooding along a pilgrimage route, leaving dozens dead and hundreds missing, many of whom were Hindu pilgrims. The economic landscape involves potential U.S. tariffs on India's energy, imports from Russia, a situation that could be influenced by a proposed Trump-Putin summit in Alaska. Geopolitically, the U.S. views potential realignments in Asian partnerships, including India, as a consequence of Trump's policies. Earlier, President Trump claimed that India and Pakistan were on the brink of nuclear conflict, which the U.S. purportedly resolved. The United States navigates a multifaceted relationship with India, shaped by potential shifts in Asian alliances prompted by President Trump's strategy. Potential tariffs on India, linked to its Russian energy acquisitions, hinge on future events like a possible Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska. President Trump previously stated the U.S. had averted a nuclear conflict between India and Pakistan. Separately, in Nebraska, 5 Indian Americans faced charges of human trafficking. Malaysia is seeing public outcry over the death of Zara Khairina Mahathir, a 13-year-old, which has led to protests in Sabah and nationwide calls for justice after a reopened investigation revealed bullying. A foreign student in Selangor injured 6 people in a knife attack, reportedly fueled by stress and anti-Malaysia sentiments. Tragedy struck in Kelantan when a 7-year-old boy drowned after being chased into a river by wild cattle. The son of ex-minister Rafizi Ramli, aged 12, was attacked with a syringe at a shopping center, prompting new security concerns after Rafizi reported renewed threats against his family. Australia is adhering to international rules regarding defense exports to Israel, including parts for F-35 fighter jets, and continues to support a 2-state solution, despite difficult talks with the Israeli government. In other news from Australia, the Molly Tuckhurst murder case involving her death in Forbes, NSW, in April 2024, has been postponed for 16 months. With Daniel Billings charged, prosecutors will consult with Tuckhurst's family. Wastewater testing in Australia showed record levels of meth, cocaine, and heroin use, with an estimated street value of $7.50 billion, reflecting a 34% increase in annual usage. A new whale species has been identified by paleontologists using a 25-million-year-old fossil found on an Australian beach. This prehistoric whale had sharp teeth and bulging eyes. Pakistan is enhancing its defense infrastructure through the establishment of the Army Rocket Force Command, designed to centralize oversight of its missile assets under the leadership of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Simultaneously, Pakistan continues to cultivate its strategic alliance with China, reinforcing a partnership amidst evolving geopolitical dynamics. Meanwhile, relations between Pakistan and Afghanistan have deteriorated since the Taliban's resurgence 4 years ago, fueled by increasing militant activities and escalating border disputes. This tension is further complicated by domestic actions, including Pakistani police detaining Afghan nationals, some of whom were awaiting resettlement in Germany, resulting in reports of unexpected raids and familial division. Shifting focus to the United States, former President Trump recently met with Pakistan's Army Chief, Field Marshal Syed Azam Munir, to explore possible collaborations in sectors such as critical minerals and cryptocurrency. Sudan is grappling with a cholera outbreak of alarming proportions, deemed beyond urgent by Médecins Sans Frontières. MSF. The nation has reported 99,700 suspected cases and 2,470 cholera-related deaths as of August 11, with at least 40 deaths in the most recent week. This outbreak, the worst in recent years, is straining the capacity of health centers. The ongoing 2-year civil war is compounding the crisis, forcing many to depend on contaminated water sources, while reductions in foreign aid further hinder humanitarian responses. United States. A man in Los Angeles County died while trying to escape Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, agents during a raid at a Home Depot. This raid, part of a series of ICE actions in Southern California, was not pre-communicated to local authorities. Separately, federal agents were observed in Los Angeles' Little Tokyo area as California Governor Gavin Newsom was present, discussing the redrawing of California's congressional districts. South Korea. Collector. WHAM has amassed one of the largest collections of Polish posters outside of Poland. His passion for the art form is showcased at his museum, located in Seoul. Serbia is currently gripped by escalating anti-government protests, now entering their third night, initially sparked by outrage over a deadly rail station roof collapse last year. The demonstrations target President Aleksandar Vučić, who faces widespread accusations of corruption. Thousands of protesters have once again taken to the streets after 2 days of clashes with both loyalists of Vučić and riot police. Dozens of arrests have been made amid the unrest. Novi Sad saw particularly intense clashes, including attacks by protesters on offices of Vučić's Serbian Progressive Party. Mali has witnessed the return of ancient manuscripts to Timbuktu after more than a decade in Bamako, where they were stored for safekeeping from al-Qaeda-linked militants. Jihadists destroyed over 4,000 manuscripts and 9 mausoleums in 2012. Before this destruction, workers at the Ahmed Baba Institute had rescued remaining documents by smuggling them using rice sacks, donkey carts, and motorcycles. In other news from Mali, the military rulers announced that they had thwarted a plot to destabilize the country, leading to several arrests, including military personnel, civilians, 2 Malian generals, and a suspected French agent, all believed to be involved in the alleged coup. Mexico has recovered a 16th-century document signed by Hernán Cortés, thanks to the FBI's efforts after it went missing from Mexican archives for many years. The document contains logistical details about Cortés's expedition that led to the establishment of New Spain. Shifting gears, President Claudia Sheinbaum refuted claims that the extradition of 26 suspected cartel members to the United States was part of an agreement with Washington, stating that the decision was made based on Mexico's internal security needs. It's worth noting that a similar transfer occurred in February when 29 cartel members were extradited to the U.S. Indonesia faces headwinds with President Prabowo Subianto's free meals program, as over 360 individuals in Sragen, Central Java, became ill from food poisoning, bringing the total affected to over 1,000 since January. Simultaneously, Indonesia has launched an immigration task force in Bali to combat illegal activities by foreigners, though the visible presence of officers has raised concerns about potentially deterring tourism. North Korea's relationship with Russia appears to be deepening, as Vladimir Putin lauded North Korean soldiers fighting in Ukraine. Putin's letter to Kim Jong-un marked the anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japanese rule. Yet North Korean laborers sent to Russia face harsh conditions. Defectors report 18-hour workdays, meager rest, and unsanitary living quarters infested with insects. The United States is contemplating the deployment of additional missile launchers to the Philippines. This move aims to strengthen deterrence against potential aggression in the contested South China Sea. Tensions remain elevated as a Chinese fighter jet reportedly flew dangerously close to a Philippine Coast Guard aircraft near the Scarborough Shoal. Adding to the complexity, US and Chinese People's Liberation Army, PLSLs, were observed operating in close proximity within the South China Sea, highlighting the ongoing and escalating tensions in this critical maritime region. Haiti is set to receive assistance from Vectus Global, Eric Prince's firm, which plans to deploy around 200 security personnel. These individuals, sourced from the US, Europe, and El Salvador, will help Haitian authorities regain control of key roads and areas dominated by armed gangs. Afghanistan is preparing for a celebratory flower shower over Kabul to mark the 4th anniversary of the Taliban's resurgence. Despite the planned festivities, concerns persist regarding the quality of life for various segments of the Afghan population. Juxtaposing this, the former Trump administration has stated their belief that the situation in Afghanistan has improved enough to allow for the safe return of Afghan citizens. New Zealand's Foreign Minister Winston Peters advocated for a specific, yet undisclosed, course of action during Thursday's Pacific Islands Forum Foreign Ministers meeting held in Suva. Simultaneously, New Zealand is grappling with a surge in citizen emigration, hitting a 13-year peak. This exodus is particularly pronounced among younger demographics, with more than a third of those leaving being under 30, possibly spurred by unemployment and associated challenges. Separately, a New Zealand citizen and her child faced detention by US immigration officials, though details surrounding the detention remain sparse. The Democratic Republic of Congo's town of Rubaya is responsible for roughly 15% of the global coltan supply. This coltan is exported to Asia for tantalum refinement. The DRC also reported a significant number of conflict-related sexual violence cases last year, contributing to a 25% global increase. Ukraine is enduring relentless attacks in Zaporizhzhia, highlighting the severe human consequences of a protracted conflict. Proposals suggesting land swaps, such as those mentioned by Donald Trump, stand in stark contrast to the immediate need for de-escalation. Securing the release of detained Ukrainians could establish a foundation for future, more involved negotiations with Russia. Syria is facing renewed scrutiny as a UN-backed commission has documented widespread and systematic violence against civilians in the coastal region. The inquiry specifically found that members of the new government's forces participated in the killing of Syrian civilians during sectarian fighting in March. The commission found no evidence suggesting these actions were ordered by the government. Sudan is grappling with a cholera outbreak in a refugee camp in Tawila, located in the Darfur region. International charities are concerned that the outbreak could worsen similar situations across Africa if unchecked. Treatment is being administered to patients in a dedicated cholera ward within the camp to mitigate the spread. Fiji is championing a movement to designate the Pacific region as an ocean of peace. The initiative is anticipated to gain approval during the upcoming Pacific Islands Forum leaders meeting in Honiara next month. Brazil is currently focused on legal proceedings as former President Jair Bolsonaro submitted his final defense to the Supreme Court. He denies any involvement in attempts to overturn his defeat in the 2022 election. The geopolitical landscape is shifting, with discussions regarding the future of Ukraine reportedly occurring between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. These discussions are potentially sidelining European influence. Alaska was mentioned in the context of these discussions. Argentina is grappling with a severe health crisis as it is believed that up to 96 people have died after receiving medical use fentanyl contaminated with bacteria. The official death toll stands at 87, with 9 additional deaths still under investigation. Turning to Canada, Air Canada flight attendants have begun picketing outside Toronto Pearson International Airport in Mississauga, Ontario, raising concerns about potential disruptions that could impact as many as 130,000 passengers daily. In Gambia, 3 women are facing charges in connection to the death of a 1-month-old girl who was subjected to female genital mutilation. Meanwhile, in Greece, Spain, and Portugal, fire crews are battling to contain widespread wildfires. Ireland continues to be a hub for American drug companies like Johnson & Johnson with its plant in County Cork, as they leverage the country's manufacturing sector to lower their tax obligations. a strategy originally conceived prior to President Trump's implementation of tariffs. Examining the complexities of Israel-Palestine, the article provides a historical overview of the region's relations from the end of the Second World War to the present conflict in Gaza, shedding light on why previous peace agreements have failed and how Israel's stance against a two-state solution has solidified. Myanmar faces a dire situation as the military has blockaded Rakhine State, severely restricting supplies to its approximately 2.5 million residents amidst ongoing clashes with an ethnic armed group. Nigeria is poised to receive a boost in its security capabilities, as the U.S. State Department has approved a potential $346 million weapon sale to the sub-Saharan nation. In Norway, according to Norwegian business Daily News, U.S. President Donald Trump contacted the finance minister to discuss tariffs and expressed his desire to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Across the sea in Scotland, a man who had previously faked his own death and fled to the country has been convicted of rape. Thailand is experiencing political turmoil following recent border clashes with Cambodia, which have inadvertently strengthened the position of its military leaders. Tonga has enacted new legislation that would transfer control of foreign affairs back to the monarchy, a decision that some fear could undermine the country's democratic progress. The United States is witnessing a decline in international student enrollment, with Trump administration policies being blamed for deterring prospective students who are now being actively recruited by universities in Asia. Finally, Vanuatu and the Solomon Islands have jointly committed to the creation of marine protected areas to safeguard their ocean resources. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.